Hey guys, today we are going to mock you up and down. We got a mock draft today. We're doing a 10-team, full PPR, standard flex league draft. Don't forget to follow us on social media and Instagram, Facebook, and X at Frankly Fantasy Football, as well as watch the YouTube videos, guys. We've got a great episode ahead. Enjoy. All right. Welcome to the show. This is the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast. We are your hosts, Frankie and Johnny. Today, Frankie, I am going to mock your damn face off.
Bring it, baby. I can't wait. Hey, I heard that, you know what? You're going number one, maybe. I'm going to go number two. I'm going to fuck with you a little bit. I'm going to show you what I'm made of here, John.
You know, that's going to make things difficult. We're trying to show people strategies and what's going through our heads, and we're going to be right next to each other. All right, let's mess with each other. You know, is it Black Friday? We're both wearing black. We both look like NPCs here in a video game, man. Is it NPC day?
I know. It's almost like we should be doing like the GTA stuff when they're like going like this, then stop and turn, and then they're like doing that kind of shit. Yeah, man. I mean, look at us. It's kind of stylish, though. I like your hat. I love the color of your shirt. So, yeah, man, looks good.
You look like Ryan Reynolds in Free Guy.
God damn, I just watched that movie yesterday, too.
You got to be blue shirt guy. Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you for joining the NPCs today on Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast. Don't forget, guys, please follow us on social media. Instagram is freaking fantastic. We've got some great reels in there, great information, and a little bit of funny shit, too, to put a smile on your face. So enjoy that. And I know you all listen on Spotify, Google, Apple, everywhere podcasts are found. Please don't forget, this year you must watch it on YouTube, guys. We've got films. We've got a ton of great videos with the rookie reviews. We go videos and films of all the rookies and comps with them, as well as new faces and new places that are dropping all this week and next week, guys. So you got to get in tune for that. All right, today we are doing a mock draft. We've got a 10-team, full PPR mock draft, standard setup, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a flex. We are not drafting kicker and defense, just to save some time for you guys.
Get mocking.
Let's mock, baby. Let's mock. I am going to be drafting from the number 1 spot. Let's see what that looks like. I haven't really done that yet this year, and I'm really curious of how that's going to shake out. Frankie is going to be a jerk about things here, and he is drafting at the number 2 spot. Yeah, I'm not loving that, but we'll see how that goes. I think we're going to fuck with each other a little bit here, man. All right, so let's get going here. First pick is easy for me. If I'm 101, I am absolutely taking Christian McCaffrey. I'm not thinking about it, not overanalyzing. It will change my strategy come round 2, 3, 4. But for now, I'm going to take him, and I'm going to see what comes back to me. Frankie, what are you doing at number 2, man?
John, pretty standard as well. Guys, number 2, there's a pretty large consensus between 4 receivers. I'm going in and locking in that of Tyreek Hill. His upside to me is there. You could certainly go CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I like Tyreek. Let's rock and roll.
All right. Tyreek Hill, then Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Pretty standard there of how those guys go. It's any mix of those 5 receivers pretty much taken after CMC. At that point, it's really preference. Frankie and I get into that a little bit in some of our episodes prior. Take a look at those. We break down those 4 or 5 guys pretty well. Okay, after that, Bijan, Breece Hall, little running backs there in the first round. A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Chris Olave, Kyron Williams. Frankie, you're back on the clock. Who are you going to pair up with? Tyreek the Freak.
John, this is crazy. For anybody listening or watching, if you really think that you're going to draft Drake London or Chris Olave over Devontae Adams, who is still on the board, I wish you luck. I will say a prayer for you in that league because I will destroy you. I am going to be drafting. I don't even need to look at running backs, Sean. I don't need to look elsewhere. Just to give you some idea of who I'm looking at running back, though, if I were to go that route, It's Travis Etienne, Devon Achane, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, right? I'm definitely going Devontae Adams here and locking up that receiver core with Tyreek Hill as well.
Devontae Adams should never fall that far in a
Never.
draft. That's absolutely absurd. Yeah, and it's your guy. You love Devontae Adams.
I'm going for him.
All right. Now I've got 2 picks in a row here, and it's really interesting. I may try a different strategy just to see if we can put together a good team for the audience here so you guys can see. I've got CMC at the 101. I'm not in love with any of the running backs right here. I think it's just, I don't love doubling up on the running backs. Receivers, I'm looking at Brandon Ayuk, Nico Collins, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs. I like those guys, but none of them really super excite me on this turn here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a shot at 2 of the onesie positions. This is very important in a smaller league, a more shallow league with a 10-team league like this. Quarterbacks, tight ends are much, much more valuable, much more impactful because everybody's going to have good ones. There's a lot more talent in running back and receiver that you're going to be able to pull from because there's less teams. So I'm going to get a little crazy here and see what this ends up looking like for me. I am going to go Josh Allen, and then I'm going to grab my tight end with Sam Laporta. So we're going to go CMC, Josh Allen, and Sam Laporta to start this draft. Now, it's going to be difficult. I'm going to have to just hammer receivers moving on here. But let's see what I can put together. All right, Frank, you're on the clock. You got a beautiful tandem of receivers there with Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. Where are you going here, man?
John, this is interesting because I really do think in these shallower leagues, quarterback would be awesome right here. I could go Jalen Hurts, could certainly go Lamar Jackson. I also could go running back. I have ETN still on the board, Achane, Henry, Jacobs. I know they're going to be gone, right? So that it would be a second tier down if I'm going to be looking to add to my running back room, or I could go receiver and definitely get that flex position up and rocking. And John, just for shits and giggles, I am going to go receiver again because I want to piss you off and because I know you need one. So right now I'm looking at Brandon Ayuk. I'm looking at that of Nico Collins, Mike Evans, and Stephon Diggs. John, for me, I really like this guy as my third receiver, and I know he's not going to be there. I'm going to go with that of Mike Evans. The reason being is because his floor is extremely high, right? With Diggs, that's who I wanted originally, John. But the thing is, with Nico Collins there and a new offense, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, for me, I like knowing that Baker Mayfield's got his go-to guy, and it's going to be the Mike Evans show again with 1,000 yards. So why not add him to my stable of receivers?
Super, super solid floor, man. Not much you're going to have to worry about there. Like that. And thanks for screwing me with the receiver. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right, after Mike Evans, we had Travis Etienne, Travis Kelce, Devon Achane, Brandon Ayuk, Josh Jacobs, Nico Collins, Derrick Henry, Stephon Diggs, and Deebo Samuel on the turn. Isaiah Pacheco, then a little quarterback run here with Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, then Waddle, DJ Moore, Malik Neighbors, CJ Stroud, and Frank, you're back on the clock in the 2 spot.
John, this is crazy. Guys, again, I'm drafting in the 4th round right now. And I'm on my team today. I have Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans. I could certainly go running back and go Rashad White, James Cook, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara. None of those guys right now really get me excited. Actually, you know what? They do, and I'll tell you why. I'm definitely going to go running back here because I know that you're not going to go quarterback, right? So be thinking about that strategy when somebody already has a quarterback drafted like Johnny went Josh Allen there. I was going to go quarterback. Now I don't need to. I am going to shift gears and I am going to go towards that of a running back. So I'm going to lock in our guy here, Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon to me has extreme upside in this Houston team. Yeah, he's a little bit banged up. I think he's going to be fine. I'm locking in Joe Mixon as my RB1, John, and sailing off into the sunset.
That's a great pick. Really, really good pick. He's a true workhorse. He can work on third downs. He catches the ball out of the backfield.
Really well catching ball.
Yeah. Really interesting spot for him in Houston. Definitely not going to be seeing stacked boxes or 8 men in the box on that team. That's for sure. Yeah, not this year. All right, and that's a really good move, Frank. You know I don't need a quarterback. You know I don't need a tight end, so you can wait a little longer, not worrying about that risk of losing out on somebody. Now, like I said, I need to hammer. This is almost, I don't go into my draft planning to do a hero RB or anchor RB. Sometimes they call it that. I don't go into it planning that. I'd love to. I'd like to say I did it because it sounds really fucking cool, but you can't stick to a strategy. You got to see what comes to you and you have to adjust on the fly. I may end up doing that because, like I said, I need to hammer a receiver. So I am going to hammer some receivers here. I'm going to look at, I've got Michael Pittman Jr., Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers. I am going to, I'm going to take Michael Pittman here. Love the situation he's in. I think he's very safe now, especially that you've got Joe Flacco backing up Anthony Richardson if something happens to him. Michael Pittman got paid. He is going to be a focal point of this offense along with JT in the backfield. So I'm really excited to see Michael Pittman really take a step forward this year. And this is risky. I was looking at the between Cooper Kupp and DK Metcalf. DK seems a little safer to me. I just don't think his ceiling is as high as it can be. Cooper Kupp is extremely risky. He's been banged up. We've seen it. I mean, those of you who've drafted and have had Cooper Kupp over the last couple of years, it's been rough. It's been a little brutal. But I'm going to take a chance here that there is massive, massive upside, especially when I'm going a zero RB, hero RB strategy. I'm going to see how this can shake out for me. So Michael Pittman and Cooper Kupp taking on the turn. Frankie, you're on the clock.
John, this one's easy, guys. So I'm looking at, on my team currently, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans. Receivers are solidified. I got Joe Mixon as my RB1. I absolutely love that. So now I'm kind of looking at best overall. Could certainly go quarterback here. You have Anthony Richardson, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. I could definitely double down on running back and solidify my top 5 pretty easily with Rachaad White, James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker Jr., or I could go back to the well at receiver and really start screwing over Johnny, which, God, that sounds so good. But I'm not going to do it. I'm going quarterback, John, and the reason being is because I want a guy that I know that's going to have just as much rushing as he pretty much is going to be throwing the ball. John, I'm locking in Lamar Jackson, especially with them bringing on Derrick Henry and some of the other weapons that they have on the outside with that of Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, so on and so forth. I like this cat. So for me, man, I'm locking in Lamar.
Yeah, when it comes to a 10-team league, those shallower leagues, I feel like you have to have a rushing quarterback. I really, really do. There is such a difference between the pocket passers and the rushing quarterbacks that in a 10-team league, you need to have one of those guys. All right, after Lamar Jackson, Trey McBride, Rachaad White, DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Tank Dell, James Cook and Dalton Kincaid on the turn, Alvin Kamara, Keenan Allen, Aaron Jones, Anthony Richardson, Kenneth Walker, Joe Burrow, and Amari Cooper. Frank, you're back on the clock.
Yeah, so this is interesting because, again, I know Johnny or whoever's drafting at 1 doesn't need a tight end. So for me, I'm absolutely going to go running back here. I already solidified my quarterback. My receiver room is still really nice. Going to go back to the well at the stable. With that being said, I'm looking at James Conner, David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris. None of those guys really, really excite me. However, there's definitely one that I am certainly leaning towards. Actually, 2, and it's between DeAndre Swift and James Conner. James Conner's exciting because you know he's going to get the rock. However, there has been injury issues and they drafted his backup in Trey Benson. DeAndre Swift, complete unknown, right? He did very well for the Eagles, got signed and got paid for Chicago Bears, but who knows what he's going to look like in that offense. I'm willing to take a risk on him. John, I'm going DeAndre Swift and locking him in as my RB2 because I feel like he has a slightly higher ceiling than that of James Conner.
Love that pick, man. Absolutely love that pick. All right, this one, guys, I am going 0 RB. This is just the way that it's coming to me, and I would look at a running back here, but I'm nervous with Cooper Kupp. I do think the upside is huge, but the downside is terrible. You know? So I am going to hammer 2 more receivers here because there's 2 guys right at the top of the list that I love this year. George Pickens, absolutely locking him in. I love him this year. I think we're going to see a true breakout season from George Pickens. He's got 2 serviceable quarterbacks that can get him the ball, play perfectly to his play style. Love me some George Pickens this year. By the way, Frankie, I don't know if you know this, but I have a George Pickens shirt that I got when I went to the Steelers game.
Oh,
so
is it burnt yet? Did you burn it? Are you keeping it? Is that what you're telling? Oh, okay. I just wanted to double check. I'll make sure
Yeah,
to tell our other family. Okay. I just want to
we're,
make
we're,
sure.
we're going to pause this real quick. Guys, I went to a Steelers game last year. We're diehard Browns fans, okay? They're our mortal enemies. In this world climate, this political climate, I'm trying to hear the other side. I'm trying to listen to things that maybe I don't always agree to. I went to a Steelers game. I had a great time. It's just like going to a Browns game. Everyone was super frustrated, drunk, fat, gross. It was just like being at home. It was wonderful. But yeah, I've got some Steelers gear. I got a George Pickens shirt. Now, my family, including Frankie, all thought that I was mentally ill, thought that maybe I needed help. It was a cry for help. No, guys, I'm just trying to branch out a little bit, not be so tribal, not be so, my team or no team. All right. Just wanted to point that out there. But I put my money where my mouth is, and I'm drafting George Pickens as well. All right. I digress. Next pick here on the turn, T. Higgins. This is an easy one for me. T. Higgins, obviously franchise tagged. He's with the team. He's playing for a contract. I think he's going to play his absolute nuts off this year and end up landing somewhere else next year. But Joe Burrow's healthy. You've got a dynamic offense. I'll take T. Higgins all day as my wide receiver 4.
All right, man. So for me, I am not going to be flirting with other people's shit or other teams' colors or anything along those lines, John. I like being in my stubborn ass mindset. And what that means is that I'm looking at one guy who's sticking out like a sore thumb that I'm going to reach for, knowing the probable upside that could occur. In addition to this, he really adds a great element to my running back room. Guys, in this particular situation, again, I could go James Conner, I could go David Montgomery, I could go Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris, Tony Pollard. None of those guys get me that excited. If you go down the list, grab your guy if you need him. I'm going chubby. I got a chub for Chubb. Because you know what? While you're rocking your George Pickens jersey, right, I'm going to be rocking my Chubb jersey, okay? And so I'm going to give you a little bit of shit here, man, because I'm going to go down the list and take my guy. Let's go.
Okay. First of all, I said I'm branching out and learning new. I'm still a Browns fan through and through. Die hard, baby. All right. After Frankie took Nick Chubb, we've got Christian Kirk, Monty, James Conner, Kyle Pitts, Evan Ingram, Ramondre Stevenson, Rome Odunze, Dak Prescott, and Chris Godwin on the turn. Then Xavier Worthy, Terry McLaurin, Jordan Addison, Najee Harris, George Kittle, Calvin Ridley, and Jaden Reed. Frankie, you're at number 2. All right, you've got 3 receivers, 3 running backs, and a quarterback. Very balanced team. I like what you've got going on here. What's your thought process right now?
John, I'm going to go bolster the receiver room again, right? I want to go back to the well here. I know I have 3 studs, but just in case of injury, bye week, so on and so forth, I need another one in the hopper here. So I'm looking at Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown. Both are super interesting for different reasons. Of course, you attach them to Patrick Mahomes, and you're like, yeah, super sexy. You go down the list a little bit, you could certainly go after some of the rookies. You got Ladd McConkey. You got Brian Thomas. You also have Deontay Johnson. John, I'm going to go outside of all of that purview here, and I'm going to lock in an old cat. An old cat that doesn't know some new tricks that's certainly going to be either 1A, 1B on that Titans team. It's DeAndre Hopkins. I think that for me, what I'm looking for out of this type of 4th receiver is what I'm going to be getting out of that of DeAndre. Again, he's not a guy that I'm looking to start. This is a guy that I could look to bolster trade value. He was definitely the top receiver for that of Will Levis this past year. They add some help in that receiver room with Calvin Ridley. I only think this is going to benefit D-Hop. I love him as my receiver 4.
All right. I am still rolling with a 0 RB. It is round 8 and 9 for me on the turn with the number 1 pick. So I am now considering looking at another running back. Before I do that, I am going to hammer 1 receiver here. I am going to take a chance on one of these rookies. I have 4 very good receivers. So this is a perfect opportunity for me to load up on some lottery tickets. I love Ladd McConkey this year. I'm going to give him a shot on my roster in Los Angeles with the Chargers. He really has the opportunity to become the number 1 here, to be the number 1 target on this team for Justin Herbert-led offense. I have to see what's going on there. Now let's take a look at running backs here. We've got Tony Pollard, Zamir White, Raheem Mostert, Jonathan Brooks, little rookie action there. couple of running backs that I like here. My strategy here will probably be just hammering running back the rest of the way, taking 4 running backs in a row here to finish up my draft. So I'm going to start with a guy. I'm not in love with him, but there will be volume. As of right now, he is the guy in Las Vegas, is a workhorse running back, not a real sexy workhorse, but he's a workhorse. And when opportunity is there, I want that for a running back. I'm going to take Zamir White. All right,
Nice.
Frank, you're on the clock.
All right, man. So really, it's pretty open for me. Again, I have my quarterback locked up. I now have my top 4 receivers. I got 3 stud running backs. I could certainly go tight end here, but I know that quite a few people have already drafted a tight end outside of one other team. So I'm going to wait and see what happens from a tight end perspective. What I am going to do, John, is start peeking at the running back and receiver room again. Receiver room hasn't changed much since I drafted that of DeAndre Hopkins. But the running backs, I want to continue to get that fucking knife and turn it into your gut right now, man, because I want to continue to screw you. So I'm looking at Tony Pollard, like you mentioned. Zach Moss, John, is another guy that's a little bit down there that's really interesting. You can get a starting caliber running back a little bit deeper. You can also go Austin Eckler, which is super interesting. For me, man, I think this is pretty easy. As my 4th running back, I want another starter. It's going to be Tony Pollard out of Tennessee Titans.
Okay. Then we had Rashee Rice, Jonathan Brooks, Kyler Murray, Zach Moss, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas, a couple rookies taken there. Turd Ferguson, Raheem Mostert, and Jalen Warren taken on the turn. Jordan Love, Hollywood Brown, Deontay Johnson, Austin Eckler, JSN, Javonte Williams, and Christian Watson. Frankie, you're on the clock. You've got 3 picks left here. Still need a tight end? You thinking that right now?
Definitely thinking that right now, or potentially on the backswing, because I already know, again, that you have Sam Laporta, you have a lot invested in a tight end. I can get a bonus player here knowing you're not going to go to tight end. So I'm going to look back at running back, and I'm going to look back at receiver. Receiver's really interesting, guys. In this tier, again, we're drafting in a 10-man league. I'm drafting in, what is this, John? Round 10 right now on the back half. I'm looking at Jamison Williams, Cortland Sutton, Romeo Doubs, Curtis Samuel. All of them are kind of interesting. Looking at it being my receiver 5, John, I really think that I'm willing to take a flyer on a guy that everybody keeps talking about out of the Lions camp, and it's Jamison Williams. That dude is beefing up. He looks great in his routes. John, I think he could be a bona fide true number 2 on that Detroit team. So I'm going to take a little gander and plug him and play him.
Yeah, there's been some hype coming out about him already, saying that he's looking good and looking crisp, man. Definitely a candidate for a big-time breakout, especially a guy that you can get in round 10 in a 10-team league. Love that. All right, once again, I said I'm hammering running backs, and I am true to my word. I'm going to hammer another guy very similar to a Zamir White, very similar to a Zach Moss. Not a sexy player, but a very good running back. Positioned to be a 3-down workhorse back, albeit not necessarily on a great team, but that's why he's drafting down this far into round 10. Devin Singletary with the New York Giants. So now I'm looking at a running back as well. Let me see just take a peek at receiver just to see if there's something I want to take a flyer on. Not really here. So when I'm looking at running backs, we've got Trey Benson, backup to James Conner in Arizona. Very interesting. He's a rookie. We talked about him. Take a look at the rookie review for running backs. But Tajay Spears, another, high-powered backup there in Tennessee. Brian Robinson, who will be the starter in Washington. Gus Edwards as well. Actually, I'm going to go with the Gus bus, man.
Love
the
it.
main reason being, you got a hardball offense here. This team wants to run the ball. It's very obvious what they're looking to do by running the ball. They brought in J.K. Dobbins. They brought in Gus Edwards. So I'm going to go with Gus Edwards and see if I can catch some lightning in a bottle. All right, where are you going, Frank?
John, it's going to be tight end here, guys. And there's 2 that I keep going back and forth on. It's Brock Bowers, superstar rookie that got drafted 13 overall. Thank you, commenters. Really appreciate checking my ass. 1-3 overall, Brock Bowers. Or I could go David Njoku, who I love. I have a serious, deep love for Chief, man. But, John, I'm going to go rookie here. I like his position. I like his upside. I think if you're drafting a player at 13 overall in the first round, right, he's a prolific tight end. What he did in college was nothing short of incredible. So I want a piece of that pie. Again, if it doesn't work out, I don't have a lot of stock in him, right? Because I drafted him, guys, in the 11th round. So if it doesn't pan out, I can stream other tight ends like that of TJ Hawkinson. Maybe there's a few others that tend to pop. Luke Musgrave, so on and so forth. Fryermuth, right? Cole Kmet. So, John, I really do like taking a Brock Bowers pick at this 11th overall.
You started a little trend here of tight ends in the 11th round. After Brock Bowers, we have Dallas Goedert, David Njoku, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant there, then Brian Robinson, Trey Benson, Dalton Schultz, Tua Tagovailoa, TJ Hawkinson, Caleb Williams, Romeo Doubs, Tajay Spears, Zeke Elliott, Jared Goff, Tyler Lockett, Trevor Lawrence, and Jaden Daniels. Frankie, you're back on the clock, your last pick in this draft. What are you thinking?
Super easy. I want insurance policy. You can either go insurance policy here or you can go ceiling play. Either or is phenomenal. For me, man, knowing who I drafted, knowing who I reached for as my third running back, I want some insurance here. I'm going to lock in Jerome Ford. If something happens to Nick Chubb again, if he is not 100% right, I know that I have a bell cow waiting in the wings that I can trade or plug and play if one of my other players get hurt. So I'm going with that of Jerome Ford.
That's a great pick. That's exactly what I was going to do. Let me tell you something, guys. If you're doing a zero RB or a hero RB strategy, it's perfect. If you can get Jerome Ford late in the draft, you know you've got a starter for a couple of weeks on a run-heavy team with one of the best offensive lines in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns. That's who I was going to target, and then I was going to lick my chops, congratulate myself, and say, look how genius I am. Because I needed an RB2. I've got a bunch of guys that I'm going to be playing that game with matchup and everything for RB2. Jerome Ford would have made that very easy for me. So great pick there, man. All right, like I said, I am looking at hammering running back. I need some depth here because I am going to be playing that game. Each week I've got, obviously I'm starting Christian McCaffrey. I've got a wonderful setup of receivers here, but I'm going to be playing that RB2 game every single week. So I'm going to take a little flyer here on another rookie that we talked about. Love this guy. Love the situation. It's Blake Corum with the Rams. He's the backup to Kyren Williams. Similar running style to Kyren Williams. Again, check out the rookie videos. We talk about Blake Corum. We show some video. We show who his comp looks like and some video on that as well. Love this guy. If he gets the opportunity with an already injured, banged up Kyren Williams, I think he's going to run with it. No pun intended. All right, that is the draft. Frankie, let's take a look here. Let's look at your team first. Why don't you break this one down for me, man?
Yeah, I like it. Let's look at the more dominating team first. I think that's the right way to approach this, John. So first and foremost, guys, I drafted from spot 2 here.
You son of a bitch.
And I decided to try a strategy. It's just open-ended. I knew I wanted Tyreek Hill at 2 just because of his insane play, right? But what I didn't expect was Devontae Adams to drop. Typically, this is not going to happen. I actually see Devontae Adams going much higher up, even though, even in a 10-man league over a 12, but he dropped to me. If he would not have been there, John, that would have drastically changed my thought process there. Maybe I still go Mike Evans, maybe I still go a Chris Olave or a Drake London at that point, or maybe I actually end up going running back and changing everything. Good news was he was there, so I went for it. So what I did, John, is now I established my my receiver room. So I immediately knew, okay, I have to have at least some anchor in running back here. I'm not going to go a zero RB, knowing that I'm looking at Joe Mixon still on the board at round 4. So I love grabbing Joe Mixon, and then coming back and getting Lamar was critical. And I love this because you're getting a top tier rusher as well as a top tier passer on a team that is damn good. So that's why I love Lamar Jackson. And John, you said it brilliantly. It was, hey guys, in a shorter league, like the rushing quarterbacks or the dual threat quarterbacks need to be paramount for you. End story, right? So that's why I wanted to get Lamar Jackson. John, I was able to bolster up the running back room with DeAndre Swift, reach for my guy in Nick Chubb. And then obviously I was able to filter in some of the other cats behind. So for me, John, looking at this, if I would have actually drafted this team, I would have been so happy with how everything transpired. I have trade bait, I have backups ready to rock and roll, and I also have my solidified top 6 that are ready to go out there and play.
Yeah, your receivers and your quarterback are fantastic. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just something you're not going to have to worry about. You've got just massive points being thrown up on the board every single week. Where you'd struggle would be that running back two. I mean, that's typically where people are going to struggle is running back two. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have guys in and out. You're going to be playing that game. But what you did brilliantly, if you take Nick Chubb, which you did have to reach for him, which would lower your grade, somebody grading your draft, you came right back in the last round and you got Jerome Ford. So now you've got an RB2 locked down for one of the best rushing offenses in football with the Cleveland Browns. That's what made your team really come together. Because having to decide DeAndre Swift and Tony Pollard and somebody else, that would have been a nightmare. Yeah, that would have been really, really difficult. All right, I love it, man. Great team. Let's go to mine here. Now, guys, I'm glad this actually turned out to be what it turned out to be. This is a true hero RB strategy. This is what it looks like. Basically, to the strict definition of what hero RB or anchor RB is. You grab CMC, then you start filling out the onesie position. So I filled out Josh Allen, get the number one quarterback off the board, number one running back off the board. Let's get the number one tight end off the board as well with Sam Laporta. Then, like I said, I'm going to be hammering receivers. And I picked up some good receivers, some guys that I really, really like. None of these guys are really guys you can anchor your team with, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm anchoring my team in other places. But between Michael Pittman, Cooper Kupp, George Pickens, T. Higgins, and Ladd McConkey, Laddie. I love that. I will love every week looking at those matchups and playing the guys that I think are going to be on fire that week. Now, where you struggle with the hero RB, it's the running back too.
Totally.
I waited until round 9 to grab my second running back. That's a true strategy. But you can see that it can work out for you, especially in a 10-team league and the more shallow leagues. Definitely try to implement that strategy if you can, guys. But I wanted to hit guys. I didn't want guys that just get a little bit of playing time or splitting time. If I'm going to do a true hero RB, I want workhorse backs. I want guys that are going to be getting the opportunity. Maybe not the sexiest players in the world. No offense, guys. I'm sure you're very sexy in real life, but I'm just talking about fantasy here. But with Zamir White, Devin Singletary, Gus Edwards, I can choose one of those three guys based on a great matchup, and that's exactly what I would end up doing here. And then I've got Blake Corum to fill in there just to see if I can catch something, just in case Kyren Williams does get hurt. But I think this team would be a lot of fun to play with, man. I really do.
John, I think it would. And the other thing, too, is you have a lot of trade value. Like a good candidate would actually be somebody like myself or even that team in Team 9 from a running back perspective. Let's just say Cooper Kupp does perform, right? We're assuming that he might not. Let's assume he does perform. Now your receiver 2 is Michael Pittman Jr. That changes everything on that team. And so now you have CMC, you have the number one tight end, you have the number one quarterback, right? You have Cooper Kupp back to form, Michael Pittman Jr. There's your 5. And then you just need a flex piece to really come into play. And then obviously from that point, you can trade Ladd McConkey, T. Higgins, package together a Devin Singletary on a really good week, maybe before Tyrone Tracy starts stepping in, something like that. So dude, I think this is really cool. And one other call out, guys, I appreciate John showing you this. This is not, candidly speaking, John, I think we can both say this confidently. Typically, you wouldn't necessarily usually go a quarterback round 2. So that's why I love
very rarely.
Yeah. So that's why I loved you showing this because you actually showed that hero, to your mention, the hero RB strategy or the anchor RB strategy. And I think it was really, really good to see instead of you just going typical, all right, I'm going to go another running back after CMC or a receiver and start filling out my team in a more balanced way. So I appreciate you on that, man.
All right. That is the mock draft for today. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Please don't forget, follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, Frankly Fantasy Football, and you all listen to the audio on Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Please, guys, you must look at YouTube. The mock drafts are only good on YouTube. You've got to watch the videos. You got to watch us going through the Sleeper app and talking about our teams. But please follow us on YouTube and subscribe, Frankly Fantasy Football. Frankie, what do we have coming up next week for everybody?
guys, we got another new faces and new places going to be dropping next week. We're going to be diving into maybe some running backs, maybe a little bit of receivers. Who knows? We're going to figure it out, and you are going to have one hell of an episode to dive into. John, don't forget, and those listening, those viewing, we are also going to be dropping a mock draft every Friday. So tune in. We're switching strategies, switching league settings, everything to make sure that no matter what your league is, no matter what format it is, we have you covered. Check it out. Talk some shit. We'll be there to talk a little bit back. Love you guys.
I love when they brutalize you on YouTube, man. Keep it up. Fuck Frankie on YouTube. Let's go. May the fantasy gods smile upon you. Bye.